Picture a country with a population of over 200 million people, the 7th largest in the world. Over 350 different ethnic groups speaking over 500 different languages. Now, sprinkle in some colonial history with an abrupt end in 1960. Now, add in a wealth of valuable natural resources, including that black liquid that powers much of modern life across the globe. I'm talking about oil. Sorry, Greta. Then, throw in some competing factions vying for power. What do you get? You get a civil war. This is the story of Nigeria's forgotten humanitarian crisis, the Biafra War. The Biafra War was a devastating civil conflict that took place in Nigeria between 1967 and 1970. It was fought between the successionist state of Biafra, mainly inhabited by the Igbo people, in the eastern region of Nigeria, and between the Nigerian federal government. The roots of the Biafra War can be traced back to Nigeria's independence from colonial rule. Nigeria, a politically divided country with significant religious and ethnic diversity, faced challenges in maintaining unity and a fair balance of power amongst its various regions. The Igbo people, mainly concentrated in the southeast of Nigeria, felt marginalized and excluded from power. In 1966, a group of military officers, consisting of individuals mainly from the Igbo ethnic group, carried out a coup that would lead to the deaths of several high-ranking Nigerian politicians, including the then Prime Minister Abubakar Balewa, who was of northern Nigerian descent. The coup was then followed by a counter-coup, led by northern Nigerian officers, resulting in the deaths of many Igbo military officers and civilians residing in the north. In response to the violence and fearing further persecution, the Igbo people, under the leadership of Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, declared the succession of the eastern region of Nigeria and the establishment of an independent state called Biafra in May 30th, 1967. Now, a bit about Ojukwu. Ojukwu was born to a wealthy businessman, Sir Lewis, who took advantage of the transport business boom during World War II and became the richest man in Nigeria at the time. Ojukwu was educated in colonial Nigeria and then the UK before joining the Nigerian army in 1957. He quickly rose through the ranks, and by 1966, he had become the military governor of the eastern region of Nigeria, following which he declared the establishment of Biafra. The Nigerian federal government, under Yakubu Gowon, rejected the succession of Biafra, viewing it as a threat to national unity. But there's also one important factor to raise here, and that's the economic one. The federal government did not want to lose access to the oil reserves in the region, which were vital for the country's economy, aka politicians' pockets. In July 1967, the Nigerian military launched Operation Gowon to retake Biafra by force, marking the beginning of the war. The Biafra War was characterized by intense military operations, blockades, and a significant humanitarian crisis. In the early stages, Nigerian forces made significant advancements, capturing key cities like Benin, Enugu, and Port Harcourt, thus isolating Biafra from the outside world. The Nigerian government then imposed a naval and land blockade on Biafra, aiming to weaken its military and force a surrender. The blockade led to severe food and medical shortages, resulting in widespread malnutrition and starvation amongst the civilian population. So you see those images of characteristically sick and malnutritioned African children? Yeah, this became synonymous with the Biafra War. Biafra did receive support from various countries and NGOs. Humanitarian aid, including food, relief workers, medical supplies, were sent to Biafra. However, the Nigerian government viewed this as interfering in its internal affairs and viewed the aid as support for Biafra. Wild. The Nigerian Air Force also carried out extensive aerial bombings targeting Biafran cities and infrastructure. This resulted in significant civilian casualties and the destruction of vital facilities such as airports, roads, bridges, and communication facilities, which further exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. But despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Biafran forces launched guerrilla warfare tactics and successfully repelled Nigerian advances in some areas. Biafran soldiers, known as the Biafra People's Army, employed hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, and defense fortifications to resist the Nigerian armies. The Biafra War drew international attention and sparked debates on humanitarian intervention and ethics of warfare. Some nations supported Biafra, while others recognized Nigeria's territorial integrity. The involvement of foreign mercenaries on both sides also further complicated the conflict. It should be pointed out though that throughout the course of the war, there were attempts to renegotiate peace. These include the Aburu Accord, signed in Ghana in 1967. Nigerian jollof is better. And peace talks in Uganda, led by Idi Amin. Wait, what? However, these talks were largely a failure as disagreements arose and the war raged on. As the war reached its final phase, the Nigerian military intensified its operations, encircling and besieging Biafran territories. Biafra's infrastructure and economy collapsed under the weight of the war, and Biafran forces faced increasing difficulties in securing supplies and maintaining morale. After 2.5 long years of brutal fighting and starvation, with Biafra under increasing military and humanitarian challenges, Ojukwu left the region and went into exile. In his absence, the Biafran military surrendered to the Nigerian government, bringing an end to the war. The war resulted in a death toll ranging from hundreds of thousands to over 1 million, mainly civilians. The famine and malnutrition experienced during the conflict also led to deaths of countless children. The war also deepened ethnic tensions within Nigeria, particularly between the Igbo and the other ethnic groups. It also highlighted the challenge of ethnic diversity and the need for political reform to address regional grievances. After the war, Nigeria was faced with the task of rebuilding Biafra and reintegrating the region into the federal structure. Efforts were made to reconcile and heal the wounds of the conflicts, although some tensions and grievances still persist to this day. The Biafra War was a tragic conflict marked by violence, suffering, and the failure of diplomatic resolutions. It highlighted the challenge of managing ethnic diversity and the devastating impact of warfare on civilian populations, and the need for humanitarian intervention in conflicts of such magnitude.